Hello and welcome to the program. It's the Christmas Eve edition. I'm Layo Olarinde. We begin in Uganda. The wife of detained opposition politician Kizza Besigye is decrying as cruel and inhumane a ban on prisoners receiving visitors on Christmas Day. Prison authorities revealed that as part of measures to prevent potential security lapses, inmates would not be allowed visitors for 7 days, starting on Christmas Eve. Mr. Besigye's wife, Winnie Byanyima, who is the head of the UN organization to tackle HIV and AIDS, has declared that she will camp outside the Luzira prison in order to see her husband and give him food on Christmas Day. 68-year-old Kizza Besigye was charged with possession of pistols and attempting to purchase weapons abroad in the military court. He denies the charges and his trial is set for January 2025. To Chariot News, in the Democratic Republic of Congo, families living at the Buhimba displaced persons camp near Goma in North Kivu got a taste of Christmas when Santa Claus arrived with festive cheer and hot food. A group of volunteers accompanied Santa to the camp to cook hundreds of meals as the children gathered around in excitement. The event was organized by a youth association called Leader Volontaire to support displaced people during the festive season. For some, it's the first Christmas with a celebration at the camp. The event organizers believe bringing a hot meal for the children and sharing some time with them is more important to them than gifts of toys. We are back here in Nigeria. The President, Bola Tinubu, says he has no regrets removing fuel subsidy in spite of the attendant effects on the cost of living of the citizens. He was speaking in Lagos during his first media chat since assuming office, where he sat down with a group of journalists, including Channels Television's Malkwe Ogun Yusuf, to address a wide range of subjects affecting the polity. Reacting to a question by Malkwe Ogun Yusuf, the president says leaving the subsidy could have been tantamount to postponing the evil day as the country was running out of revenue to sustain the subsidy regime.
I don't want to question people with five limousine type of vehicles on the roads. Well, we should teach management with all our programs. We have to manage our resources within our means. There's no way out that you give out fuel and allow all the entire neighboring countries as Father Christmas. I don't have any regret whatsoever removing the subsidy. It is necessary. We cannot spend our future generations' investment upfront.
But do you think it should have been phased, done in bits?
It is part of the fear that is unnecessary. Phased, no matter how you cut it or you slice it in segments, you still have to meet the bills. So, cut your coat strictly to your size. It's what we must manage. Management is the issue. And we have no choice but to pull the handbrake. Otherwise, we are headed for slippery slopes.
Well, President Tinubu is also admonishing individuals and corporate organizations to devise a better way of giving out palliatives to the less privileged in society to avoid tragic events that have characterized such distributions in recent times. According to him, charitable events are not peculiar to developing countries, but the difference with what obtains in developed countries is the process of giving out the palliatives. The president was speaking against the backdrop of the recent stampedes recorded during the distribution of food items in different parts of the country, which led to the deaths of over 60 people.
It is very sad that people are not well organized. We just have to be more disciplined in our society. Okay, condolences to those who lost the family members. But it is good to give. Every society, even in America, they have food banks. They have hungry people. In Britain, they have food bank. They have warehouses. They are organized. They take tokens to be in line and take turns to collect. It's unfortunate. We just have to. It's a reflection in our bus stops where we don't even want to be on queue before we rush into the vehicle. It is very sad, but we continue to learn from our mistakes. To me, I see this as a very grave error on the part of the organizers. But things are improving. It doesn't kill our happiness for this season. It should be. We should just get on with it.
Meanwhile, the SOS Children's Village in Ibadan, Oyo State, says it's shaken and deeply saddened by the tragic stampede at the Basharun Islamic High School in Ibadan, which claimed the lives of 35 young children and left several others injured. In a statement, the organization commiserated with the affected families and everyone else impacted by the unfortunate incident. It adds that intending benefactors must always prioritize the safety and protection of all children in all spaces. The National Director, Ehosa Erumose, said in part, "This is a wake-up call for all of us as a society. It is not enough to create opportunities for children to thrive. We must also ensure their safety is non-negotiable." He also underscored the importance for those responsible for organizing and supervising such events to be held accountable for any lapses in safety. He concludes his statement by calling for psychological counseling and trauma care for the affected children and their families. It's barely a few hours to Christmas. Lagos residents have been assured of adequate preparations of safety and disaster management strategies to curtail any emergency during and after the Yuletide season. The Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Special Duties and Intergovernmental Relations, Mr. Sheson Ogundeko, gave the assurance at the 2024 Christmas Carol organized by the Lagos State Emergency Management Agency, LASEMA, and it held at Alausa Ikeja.
This is not the usual gathering you find officials of the Lagos State Emergency Management Agency. We are most times on the field, saving lives. Fortunately, the season permits them to celebrate, which is why LASEMA is holding its 2024 Christmas Carol of Songs and also give thanks to God for the grace to deliver their duties.
It has been a fulfilled year for us at LASEMA, with all our staff and technical partners. And as a mark of gratitude to Almighty God, this carol has been designed to capture the essence of this magical season. Christmas is a season of hope, love, and thanksgiving, where dreams come alive and hearts are filled with joy.
Then comes the moment to enjoy the rendition of congregational hymns by LASEMA choristers, praise chants, and song ministrations by guest artists.
Melody wọ́pọ̀ ọ̀rọ̀ mi, melody wọ́pọ̀ bàbá. Nínú ọ̀rẹ́ rẹ̀, ọ̀rẹ́ rírí jẹ, ọ̀rẹ́ rírí mu, ọ̀rẹ́ ìdásíni, ọ̀rẹ́ àlàáfíà ọlọ́run, melody wọ́pọ̀ bàbá.
The first and second Bible readings are taken by directors of LASEMA, which focus on the love of God.
And in the 6th month, the angel Gabriel was sent from God unto a city of Galilee named Nazareth, to a virgin espoused to a man whose name was Joseph, of the house of David, and the virgin name was Mary. Verse 28. And the angel came into her and said, Hail thou that art highly favored, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women. And when she saw him, she was troubled at his saying, and cast in her mind what manner of salutation this should be. Verse 30. And the angel said unto her, Fear not, Mary, for thou hast found favor with God. And behold, thou shalt conceive in thy womb, and bring forth a son, and shalt call his name Jesus.
Then Joseph, her husband, being just a man, and not willing to make her a public example, but minded to put her away privily. But while he thought on these things, behold, the angel of the Lord appeared unto him in a dream, saying, Joseph, thou son of David, fear not to take unto thee Mary thy wife, for that which is conceived in her is of the Holy Ghost.
Representing the First Lady of Lagos State is the wife of the State Commissioner for Information and Strategy, Mrs. Fumio Motosho, who took the third Bible reading.
Therefore the Lord himself will give you a sign. Behold, a virgin shall conceive and bear a son, and shall call his name Emmanuel. Curds and honey he shall eat, that he may know to refuse the evil and choose the good. For before the child shall know, so refuse the evil and choose the good, and that you dread will be forsaken. In both are kings. The Lord will bring the king of Assyria upon you, and your people run your father's house. Days that have not come since the day that Ephraim departed from Judah.
The Lagos State Emergency Management Agency is using this opportunity to assure the people of Lagos of prompt response time to emergency cases during and after the Yuletide.
We continue in Lagos. The government has reaffirmed its zero tolerance to noise pollution during and after the Yuletide season. The State Commissioner for Environment and Water Resources made this known during a press conference. He says the state government will be implementing a special task force on noise pollution to arrest any individual or organization disturbing the peace of others while engaging in fun or religious activities in nightclubs or worship centers. He clarifies that henceforth they must obtain a permit from Lagos State Environmental Protection Agency and soundproof their premises before any concert takes place or they face the law.
In achieving our goal of zero tolerance for noise pollution in our dear state, Lagos, I outlined the following measures. 1, formation of a special task force on noise pollution. This task force shall work statewide and they shall be 24 hours on the day. They shall also be working in collaboration with some other agencies like the Neighborhood Watch and the Car Agency. stricter enforcement of the laws on noise pollution. This period, we shall also not drop the ball. We shall be very, very strict on our noise pollution regulations and law. Worship centers, nightclubs must obtain permits and soundproof their premises before any concerts or public events. Public awareness campaign to be strengthened. 5, collaboration with all stakeholders as the ministry is saddled with the responsibility of environmental protection. We will continue to implement government reform policies on sustainable environment in line with the Teams Plus development agenda of this present administration.
Let's head now to Egypt, where the foreign minister has been discussing the Red Sea and developments in Somaliland with his Somali counterpart in Cairo. Somali Foreign Minister Ahmed Fiki reiterated that the talks were successful in curbing further violence in the region, which would have led to what he calls a dangerous explosion that could have burned everyone's interests. He extolled the agreement for maintaining Somalia's sovereignty, independence, and territorial integrity. The meeting comes about a month after Ethiopia and Somalia agreed to hold technical talks to resolve a dispute triggered by Ethiopia's deal with Somalia's breakaway region of Somaliland. Turkey has been mediating between the two East African countries as tensions between them have simmered since Ethiopia signed an MOU with Somaliland in January to lease land along its coastline to establish a marine force base. In return, Ethiopia is expected to recognize Somaliland's independence, which Somalia says infringes on its sovereignty and territory. In Mozambique, the top court has confirmed the ruling party Frelimo its victory in an October election, which has sparked massive protests by opposition groups who say the vote was rigged. Western observers also insist the election was not free and fair, and the post-election period has seen the biggest protests against Frelimo in Mozambique's history. At least 130 people have been killed in clashes with police, and that's according to the civil society monitoring group Plataforma Decide. Meanwhile, the streets have been deserted amid heavy police presence outside the conference center in the capital, Maputo. A senior constitutional council judge had just announced the Frelimo party's Daniel Chapo as president-elect, and the party has retained its majority in parliament. In spite of this, protesters took to the streets in the northern city of Nacala Porto within an hour of the announcement and in other areas of the capital. In its final tally, the Constitutional Council announced that Daniel Chapo had secured about 65% of the vote, lower than the figure of more than 70% given by the Electoral Commission in late October. It also gave Frelimo Party fewer seats in the parliament than the Commission did, without explaining the reason for the changes. Frelimo Party has consistently been accused by opponents and election observers of rigging votes since it first allowed elections in 1994, although it has repeatedly denied those accusations. The Electoral Commission also is yet to comment on allegations of fraud in this particular election. In other news, the French Prime Minister Francois Bayrou believes dozens of people died in Cyclone Chido's strike on the French Indian Ocean territory of Mayotte rather than the thousands some have feared and reported. The confirmed death toll on Mayotte so far is 35, but in the immediate aftermath of the cyclone, local prefects feared that it would definitely be several hundred and could reach thousands. While defending his initial remarks, the local prefect insists he has never been an alarmist and was simply unable to give the number of victims. The difficulty in counting is compounded by the fact that there are many inaccessible areas in Mayotte, and some victims were buried within 24 hours, according to Islamic customs. Also, the official population of the island has been put at 320,000, but authorities believe there are between 100,000 to 200,000 undocumented migrants that are also resident there. Cyclone Chido moved on to continental Africa after hitting Mayotte Island, killing 120 people in Mozambique and 13 in Malawi. The South African Border Management Authority, BMA, has announced its readiness to protect the Lembombo border ahead of threats of a national shutdown coming from Mozambique. Lembombo is a border leading into Mozambique from South Africa. Now, this is in the wake of Daniel Chapo being announced as the Mozambican president-elect. BMA Commissioner Dr. Michael Masiapato says the South African National Defence Force and other law authorities are on high alert and have been deployed to protect the border and the workers. According to him, on Monday alone, border security processed about 6,000 people going to Mozambique and 2,000 coming into South Africa.
As the Border Management Authority, we want to just give an update in terms of the work that we are doing here at Lembombo Port of Entry in Mpumalanga, leading into Mozambique. We want to just indicate that since this morning, on this day, the 23rd of December 2024, we have been able to process about 8,000 people, and out of the 8,000 people, around 6,000 of those were exiting South Africa, going to Mozambique, and we basically had around 2,000 that were coming back into South Africa. So we can also confirm that in terms of the processing of cargo, we had since early this morning stopped the processing of cargo, primarily because of the threat of the outcome in as far as the Constitutional Council is concerned in terms of confirming the election outcomes in Mozambique. So we have actually been informed that the Constitutional Council did confirm that Frelimo had indeed won the elections. So on that basis, our colleagues on the Mozambican side did confirm to us that the V8 protest is going to start in earnest on the basis of the pronouncement that we made by Mr. Ugandan. So on that basis, at the port of entry, we are very much ready to deal with any eventuality. We do have a strong contingent of the border guards together with members of the SNDF, members of the SAPS that are here to be able to protect the port infrastructure as well as the workers or the people that are within the port precinct. However, we are also ready to implement our option 2 in case the Mozambicans are to advise us to stop the processing. We will be able to divert the travelers from here in Lembombo to Mananga port of entry, which is 60 kilometers away from this particular port, whereby the travelers will enter into Eswatini and be able to travel just about 100 kilometers to be able to enter Mozambique via Mahasha port of entry. So otherwise, as the Border Management Authority working with the rest of the stakeholders, everything is going according to plan. We shall be here at the port throughout the night, and we shall definitely make sure that there is no any security threats to the port of entry or even to the officials of the Border Management Authority and the rest of the other stakeholders. Thank you.
Still in South Africa, the Minister of Electricity has announced that the country has experienced 272 days of uninterrupted power supply. This, he says, is the best performance in 5 years, highlighting that this achievement is the result of building a solid foundation to sustain power performance, although he cautioned that South Africa is not yet out of the woods. Earlier, the minister, alongside power utility company Eskom, hosted the final Energy Action Plan media briefing of the year, where they reflected on the key accomplishments and challenges faced over the past 12 months. It's a significant feat for South Africa, as load shedding has had a detrimental impact on the country's economy over the past decade.
Well, within catching distance of the resolution of load shedding, but we are not necessarily out of the woods yet. I think it's important that I underline that point so that there's a common appreciation across the country that even though we're seeing the kind of phenomenal performance that we're seeing, it is important that we continue to fix our eyes on the bouncing ball, and that bouncing ball is to ensure that we end load shedding. And then in the long term, to ensure that we are able to provide the sufficient aid space for the South African economy to grow. So I'm going to take the opportunity just first to do a recap of, if you like, the journey that we have traveled and also the kind of performance that we're seeing, one. And two, share with you what are the immediate outlook of generation performance going into the future.
And that's it on the program for today. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Layo Olarinde. Have a lovely Christmas Eve.